And yep, it's coming on live. This is Jennifer Collins with Crypto Truth Seekers, and I'm here with Scott Sion from Planet X. And I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Scott.
It's perfectly fine. It's correct.
Well, the window's taking just a minute to pop up, but so folks, we have some breaking news today and some new photos that Scott has of Planet X. We have quite a bit of information that we're going to cover, so you might want to get your cup of coffee and your favorite hors d'oeuvres and be prepared to just listen to everything that we're saying here. And then we're going to end it with some paranormal stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about Scott's paranormal experiences, which will be really awesome. So Scott, where would you like to take us to start? I'm gonna let you.
I mean, we could talk about what's happening right now. I'm just sharing your live stream onto my Facebook pages real quick, so
that's fine.
We could increase our audience. Just give me 1 second.
No problem. Well, hi Becky, how are you? Glad you're on the live chat. So we have been talking. We talked for a couple hours last night. We've been talking this morning. There's so much going on, so much on the table. It could be a little bit overwhelming, but folks, all the stuff that we're going to talk about today is fact checkable, is very true. And some of it's going to be pretty mind blowing. So you'll just have to hold on for the ride today.
Yeah,
we're definitely going to talk about even the earthquakes and what's going on with the volcanoes and things that you're not going to hear on the news, where they mainly talk about a lot of politics, and they're just constantly back and forth about the Democrats, the Republicans, and they leave out all these important news stories that are going on around the world. And Scott happens to be the man that has all these applications and informations and contacts that he deals with to get the latest updates on everything that is happening, weather-wise, you name it, in space, on planet, in the center of the planet. Becky says she's wearing her seatbelt. Well, you're going to need it, but because it's going to get kind of bumpy. But I am so excited to have Scott here, and he's just going to give us the most amazing information that is so awakening and will help us to kind of put some pieces of the puzzle together and see what is really going on around our globe. So Scott, are you ready? Or are you still, I know we have a few second delay. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but we could just keep talking. It'll show
there's a little bit of the delay. It's no big deal. Yeah, I mean, we could
start. Are you there, Scott?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Well, I don't know what happened to Scott. Hi, Deborah Tucker. How are you?
Can you hear me?
I'm waiting to see what's going on Scott's end. I don't know if your microphone is muted. I can see you on. Let me check.
I can hear you.
Probably going to have to unmute your microphone, or I don't know what happened.
Yeah, my mic's, it's not muted.
Technical difficulties here. Gremlins are going on. So I hope you folks can hear me, and hopefully Scott will get this figured out. Oh, well, I can't hear Scott. Let me see. Maybe I got to take this off. Scott, are you there? Yeah, I can't hear you, Scott, but they said that they can hear both of us here. So maybe check your audio. He might have to jump off and jump back on, everybody.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, say it again. Keep talking, Scott.
Yeah, they kicked me off.
I'm not sure if you're still talking.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. There we go. Okay, so we can hear both of you. All right, so do you have, I don't see your video on. Is your video camera on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, cool. All right. You want to start us out with?
Are you able to hear me perfectly fine?
I can now. Yeah, I
Okay.
just unplugged. I was trying to plug in a speaker so that it would be a little louder because I figured maybe you were too soft, but
Oh no, I'm loud.
no, I can hear you. I can hear you, brother.
Yeah, go and I mean, if you want to get into the Planet X information, I mean that right now that's the most important information that everybody should understand and start to learn about worldwide, because it's going to affect the Earth. It already is affecting the Earth in many, many different ways. In 1994, I started getting some information on what this Planet X was. I had a college professor that was talking about it. And there wasn't a lot of information out there at the time. But as we moved into 2010, 2011, 2012, there were some people that were starting to leak information out as to what was happening in our solar system. There's a lot of different theories out there. There's a lot of mythology out there with this quote planet Nibiru, the Sumerian tablets, Zachariah Sitchin, Robert Harrington, some of the bigger names in the very, very beginning stages of this whole basically NASA cover up. The biggest cover up in world history, basically, is what it is. So I started digging into it. I started digging into the chemtrailing first in 2005, wondering what in the hell is going on in our skies. What is with the grid pattern, the checkerboards, the streaks across the skies? And as I started digging into more and more of that, I started finding information on this supposed rogue planet, Planet X, Nibiru, Nemesis. So as I started formulating my own investigation, my own research, I delved through all of it, from the mythology to the disinformation, and then to what I found. And to be honest, not patting myself on the back because this is not a glorified thing that I do, but I think that I've uncovered the most spectacular evidence that's out there right now, except for maybe what the space agencies actually have that they're not going to show you. And as I showed you some of the information earlier, I mean, again, how could somebody call you a liar? I'm using NASA's own tools to show the world what's there and how big it is and what the effects are on the Earth and our planet. And they're happening at a very accelerated rate. And we're not going to really have enough time in just one live stream to go over it all. I have a pretty big following worldwide on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. Tens of thousands of people. I am highly censored on Facebook, or not Facebook, I'm sorry, YouTube. They don't want the information out there. I battle daily with the intrusions into my life, dealing with this subject matter. But this object has made its way through our solar system over the course of a very, very, very long time. And now it is here. It has basically become a partner to our sun. And later on at another time, we'll have Dr. Albers on. And Dr. Albers is a leading physicist. And she is my partner in our research and our investigations. And you will all get to meet her at another time. She's done some incredible reports and research into what we've discovered.
And you hardly get any sleep, Scott, at all,
Yeah,
with everything that's going on.
yeah, maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, if that, because we are completely enthralled into the research, and it takes a lot of time to monitor everything that's going on in space with our sun, with our Earth, and with all of the cataclysms that are occurring right now, every single day since 2015, and they're getting worse every day, every day. And they're going to get to a point where there will not be a day that multiple disasters are occurring on this planet in the forms of earthquakes, volcanoes, climate chaos. And we have extreme problems with our sun, because now this object is very, very close to the sun, almost, I mean, within the sun's corona, and it's draining the sun. And again, I'll let Dr. Albers get into the deep science between this unity between our star and this substellar object. It's not a planet. It's not a moon. It is a remnant of an old star, a core, the center of a burned out star that's probably, billions of years old, but still very, very powerful as far as its magnetic field. And without getting into a bunch of science, we've all played with magnets as a kid. You know how they have the ability to attract each other or repel each other. That's kind of what we're looking at here. The sun has a very strong magnetic field. This object has a very strong magnetic field. We're only 93 million miles from the sun.
Scott Suji was asking, is it the same as a brown dwarf?
It is a brown dwarf. That's what I'm describing. But we don't have solid evidence that it is actually a brown dwarf, because you would actually need the data from NASA, from their space probes and their analyzations. They are able to analyze brown dwarf stars on the outside of our solar system, but we don't have access to that information. So what we're looking at is a series of objects. One of them is very, very large. The rest of them are small, maybe the size of Venus, the Earth, but the main object is about 3 times the size of Jupiter.
So it's like their own little solar system, just kind of orbiting the sun.
It's actually a small stellar core remnant star system that is now right in our solar system, our inner solar system. I know it's hard for people to grasp this, but it's true. It's true. I have the evidence. I've been compiling the evidence for years now.
Very compelling. It's very compelling. I have to say, I was taken back, Scott. He showed me quite a few slides. I've hopped on his channel before and listened to some things, but he's always getting new updates. And it's so fascinating because it's right there. I mean, you can't deny it. And there's no going back when you see it.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I'm going to set the live chat up on my cell phone here so I could see it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure how to set it up for you, to be honest.
I have it on my cell phone right in front of me here.
Yeah.
But I could share some of the photographs, some of the evidence. And again, like I said, this is not going to be, a one-time live stream, because the evidence that we've compiled stretches over years. And Dr. Albers just this year, or 2017, no, I'm sorry, since July, of 2017. She's already written 154 scientific articles based on the evidence.
Wow.
And she has her own YouTube channel like I do. Excuse me. And she's also, both of us have written together 2 books in 6 months detailing the awakening of Planet X. And that's what I called it, The Awakening. And then our second book was the Planet X 2017 report. And that is all the full color documentation of the photographs. And we're not talking about photographs that were taken with a cell phone from the ground. These are all using NASA's spacecraft and models and satellites that they have in space. So you can't doctor that. And they hate it. You know, they hate it. I have my own group of stalkers around the world that stalk me on a daily basis and harass me. And Dr. Albers also. And, you know, everybody that is in the Planet X community knows about it, you know. It doesn't bother me. But if there really wasn't anything to believe in, and the evidence wasn't there, and you thought maybe that, you know, hundreds of thousands of us worldwide were just nothing but a bunch of nuts, then why wouldn't you just leave us alone?
Scott, I have some people in the chat room. They would like to see some of the photos. You know, the ones you were showing me today?
Yeah, sure.
That I hadn't seen. They're mind blowing. So maybe we could put those up on the screen. Very compelling evidence. A lot of great data. I mean, they strategically just collect the data, the facts. She works with the scientific, you know, and he's like the best investigator for all of this stuff. So I'm not surprised that Scott was chosen kind of to do this.
Yeah. And like I tell people, you know, this isn't some glorified situation that I have myself in. It could be life-threatening. It's dangerous. You know, I've had to move multiple times. In 2017, I moved 3 times. You know, I have these people watching me constantly. Everything that I do.
Photo.
Yeah, no, this photo came from a few individuals in Europe that I was in contact with in mid 2016 from Switzerland and also Germany. And at the time, I had a lot of people sending me and emailing me correspondence, but wanted to stay, you know, in the shadows because they had professional careers as possibly scientists, physicists, astronomers. This photo was taken through an observatory telescope. And this is what we're looking at. Now, it looks similar to Jupiter. Some of these brown dwarfs do have similar appearance to Jupiter. Some of them can be blue and light blue striped in color. Some of them can be a very dark magenta purple in color. But the word brown dwarf does not mean they're brown. The name was given to brown dwarfs from the scientist who discovered them, and her last name was Brown. So just to give you a little history on that.
Scott, I just have to mention a quote that Milky Way Weekly said, "Embrace the hate to motivate." And everybody seems to like.
That's right. Embrace the hate to motivate. I love it.
Good one. That's a good one. That's actually a gorgeous photo of it. Yeah, very clear.
I mean, this one, you're looking at it through a camera system, through a telescope. This was captured in March of 2007 or May of 2017. This is a very, very rare photograph. It's in black and white, but I'll show you the original. And this is one of the blue ones that you'll see.
That's incredible, Scott. It really is.
Here is this, here's the same photograph in ultra high definition, digitally cleaned up.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you cannot deny that. That is absolutely 100% just a gorgeous photo. Of the clarity of it is phenomenal.
Now we're going to go ahead and just move through some of these. This is a larger digital print, black and white, like an X-ray almost. You'll see some pixelization because of the formatting in order to get a high quality picture like this. You know, over 93, 94 million miles away, 100 million miles away.
You see this, folks? I mean, what do you think? I mean, that definitely looks like a planet for sure.
But it's not a planet, though. I mean, it is a star.
Well, a star, the door,
Yeah.
yeah, the dwarf. Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, like for instance, a lot of people don't know that Jupiter is a failed star. They refer to brown dwarfs as a hot Jupiter.
so Scott, maybe you can tell people the difference between a star and a planet then.
Well, a star is it's completely, it's like apples and oranges. Planets are usually made up of gases or rocky material like the Earth. Like all of our planets in our solar system, they all do have a core. Whenever you look at Jupiter, you know Jupiter is a very, very large planet, but we've never been to the surface of Jupiter. So what you see on Jupiter is probably thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of cloud cover and weather on Jupiter. We don't know what the core of Jupiter looks like because we haven't been there. You can't get down there. You get 1,000 feet into Jupiter's atmosphere, and whatever craft or space probe you're sending in there will be crushed by the pressure. So we don't know what's inside of there. But when you look at Jupiter, you're looking at thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of weather. You're not looking at the actual surface of Jupiter.
So this makes the orbit around the sun, you said, what, every 26, 27 days?
Yeah, right. The position that it's in now, it's been captured by the sun. So this object, as the sun rotates approximately every 26 to 28 days, one complete rotation. This object is also rotating and orbiting with the sun, but it's actually orbiting the sun almost at the same speed. So about 26 days, I'm able to chart this object and get photographs of it as we see it from Earth. Now in 2017, we had a lot of photographic evidence and discoveries. This was in the beginning when I was actually figuring out how to chart this object and the timing. So I started putting the information down in my computer on a calendar program. And then that's when I was able to discover that this object is actually in a little bit of an elliptical orbit around the sun. Very fast, because it's that close to the sun. So what we're looking at here in July 23rd of 2017 at 6 a.m. UTC time, there was a coronal mass ejection on the sun, which means a massive plasma explosion coming out of the sun. Coronal mass ejections are normal on our sun. If one occurs as we are facing it, it's detrimental to the Earth, causes problems with, our electrical grid. A massive coronal mass ejection can, cause serious damage to the Earth. But, we're pretty lucky. But sooner or later, that luck runs out. But what you're looking at here is a coronal mass ejection that occurred on the 23rd of July, and it illuminated this object. Now, something that you have to understand, these objects, even though they're a failed star, they no longer emit light like our sun because they're different. Our sun is like basically a big hydrogen nuclear reactor. These objects are not. So they don't emit light like the sun. If you were traveling through deep space, just say, hypothetically in a rocket ship, a spacecraft, and you had to rely on visuals to guide yourself, not electronics and all this other stuff, you would not be able to see this brown dwarf in space. It would look black because it doesn't emit light. So you're not going to see it. Now, these objects are also very hot or they're very cold. They only emit infrared light. So you can only see them in infrared light using an infrared telescope from an observatory or a space telescope. So people think they could see this from the ground using a cell phone. They're definitely wrong. So the what we're looking at here is called a coronagraph. This is coming from a spacecraft that is positioned right in front of the Earth. And this spacecraft stays stationary and it orbits in perfect synchronicity with the Earth. It has a direct view to the sun. This white ring represents the size of the sun. The darker ring is what they call an occulter. This darker ring is inside of the camera system on the spacecraft. It blocks out the glowing sun in order for you to see the expulsion of a coronal mass ejection and the background stars. If you didn't have the occulter there blocking the rays of the sun, it would overexpose the camera and you wouldn't see anything but a big white square because it would be overexposed. So these are very highly sophisticated cameras that are on these craft. This is the C2 coronagraph on the SOHO spacecraft, owned and operated by our government and NASA. And I have access to all of these cameras. They're all for public view. You just have to have the time and yes, quite a bit of knowledge to understand and have the time to track all of this, because I mean, you're talking about these cameras run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in segments of about 12 minutes. It takes a photograph and then it's placed into video, which actually shows you motion.
So is this dwarf star, is it trying to take the energy from the sun to give itself life again and recharge itself or something?
Yeah, because of the dynamics of the two, these two magnets are attracted to each other. So as this object was making its way from deep space and the edge of our solar system, it took quite a long time for it to move into our solar system. As it moved into our solar system, it encountered each and every planet in our solar system, from Pluto all the way to where it's at now. It actually, on its way into the solar system over the years, has perturbed or disturbed and heated up every single planet all the way into the solar system.
Wow.
Like I said, if you take two magnets, very strong magnets, and you put them apart, the stronger magnet, which would be the sun, would literally pull that object in and guide it in over time. Those are the very simple dynamics of what we're talking about. So we're not talking about planets. We're talking about stars, remnants of stars. And that's what our galaxy, that's what our universe is full of. Billions and billions and billions of them. Excuse me.
And
So,
you and I were talking earlier that they don't even want us to know that we are moving as a whole galaxy. Our galaxy is moving.
yeah, we're always in constant motion. That's what another thing that people don't understand about space is that everything in space is in constant motion, meaning our solar system isn't just sitting there. We're actually moving. We're moving through space. Actually, to tell you the truth, we are just within the next I think several years, maybe the next 10 years or so. I forget what the count on it is, but we're actually moving now out of a big cosmic cloud that we've been in for like 100 years as we've traveled through the galaxy. So we're actually not in the same position in like this one spot stationary. We're moving. We're always moving, and we're always going to encounter different things in space. I put it to people this way. It's like walking down a busy street in, downtown New York City. As you walk from one end of the block to the other end of the block, how many people do you experience? They're everywhere. And you're moving and they're moving. So our solar system is going to have encounters with other celestial bodies in space.
Sorry, I think there was a knock on the door, but I think it's the UPS guy dropping off a package. He'll knock.
You want to grab it?
No, he just not. Well, yeah, go ahead. Keep talking, Scott. I'll go grab it. Nobody's.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a digital print from what we were just looking at. And again, there is no denying that this object is there. This is the sun darkened out over here. And you have the object right there. Plain and simple. I mean, there's no denying what is there. The problem arises with the interaction with this object and the sun. It's causing huge problems on the sun. There has been some scientific reports. One of them just came out today from leading scientists that are saying that the sun is getting weaker. Our magnetic field around the earth is getting weaker. And we're also going into a solar minimum. Every 11 years, the sun goes into a kind of a sleepy time, and there's not that much action on the sun as far as sunspots and solar flares and filaments and things of that nature. But the combination of what's happening now has some very, very serious implications. We're already seeing a massive increase since 2014, 15, 16, 17, massive increases in earthquakes, also volcanoes, and the complete climate chaos worldwide. That's all documented fact. We document and we investigate all of it on a daily basis, every single day.
So that all's the magnetic fields that are being pulled and.
Yeah, I mean, what's happening now? The Earth is being heated internally at its core, and just like I explained to you the other day, if you just think about it this way, think of the Earth as a puzzle. A puzzle that you used to put together as a kid. But you put this puzzle together in the form of a globe, and you were able to pump internal pressure into the center of that puzzled globe. What happens when you do that? The pieces of the puzzle start to expand and they start to break apart. Well, that signifies our tectonic plates that make up the earth. That is the reason for an earthquake. And what just happened, you know, we're having massive earthquakes. We're having tens of thousands a year. And I'm not talking little minute quakes. We have very serious seismic issues. And this is your cause right there.
Wasn't that earthquake up by Alaska, the 7.81? Wasn't that like an underwater volcano?
Yeah, you know, later on I investigated it and they were calling it an earthquake. And through my contacts that I've acquired over the years, this came directly out of the Mexican seismology office that, you know, they're not like the USGS here in the United States where they hide everything. And there are over 1 million underwater volcanoes around the earth underwater, and we can't monitor them. But there was a dormant volcano right off the shore, right where this earthquake took place in the Gulf of Alaska. And the earthquakes are actually still occurring there as we speak, and it's been 2 weeks. So it's not going to stop. It's going to continue.
Yeah, it's like eruptions. That's crazy. So, and Scott, if you don't mind, since we've already been on almost 40 minutes, can you show them, because I thought it was just hilarious, the photo of the military holding their very proud patch of chemtrail.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a few subjects we need to touch on here in the next little while, but I definitely want them to see that. That is just hilarious. Like, they're proud that they're using chemtrails.
Where is it? Right here.
And folks, there'll be a lot more because we'll have him on again, and him and Claudia, and then there'll be more photos. They're getting updates all the time, so it's very interesting. We're having a heat wave down here, though. I'm fanning myself because it's so warm.
Yeah, we just got through with a little ice storm. Team Chemtrail.
Look at this, folks. This is hilarious.
Yeah, there's a multitude of patches that they have. And as you've seen,
they're saying it right there. Not
US Army.
contrails, chemtrails. Now does everybody believe us?
Yeah,
Nice
the chemtrails
spray.
are real. You know, we investigate the chemtrails. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we document the chemtrails. You know, I take photographs of them. Took some photographs here a couple of days ago.
And Scott, if you also would like to just share, you have somebody that's been in touch with you. Like I said, everybody, the news is not going to tell you all these problems and disasters that are going on around the world because they're too interested in politics. That's all they talk 24/7 practically, or, you know, Pizzagate or Hollywood or whatever. So Scott, what's going on with some floods?
Well, we have flooding. We have big problems with flooding worldwide. Oops, let me skip back there. Right now, well, Paris, France is underwater. They've been underwater for over a week now. You have massive flooding in South Asia, Southeast Asia. You have torrential flooding in some of the Middle Eastern countries, Europe, Germany, the Netherlands. You had a lot of flooding through Brazil, the South American, Central American countries. You also are seeing water displacement, meaning whole entire beaches and bays, even here in the United States, disappearing. Half of Tampa Bay disappeared this past summer during a hurricane. They blamed it on the hurricane, but at the same time, the water was disappearing in Tampa, Florida, all the way down in Uruguay and Brazil in South America, on the other side of the continent, the water receded and disappeared from an entire beach for miles. Where's it going?
This is interesting. You've got the photo up. I don't know if you still do because of the delay in the video, but of the solar flare right there. Wow.
Well, this is another object. This is the same object captured this past summer. And you can see it has a direct plasma connection with the sun.
Somebody just said it's flooding right now in Tennessee.
It's possible. We have big problems with our climate. Big
Snow
problem.
in the Sahara Desert too, folks. I can't stress that enough. That's like a shocker right there. They were what'd you say, Scott? They were sliding down the hills in sleds or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
this is
and
another capture.
Sue G was asking whether or not, Scott, you think that there is going to be a complete pole shift soon.
Well, I mean, that's all how you define pole shift. There's a crustal shift, which means the entire crust of the earth would shift around on the mantle. That's possible, but probably, I don't think that's what will occur. But over the course of the last couple of years, our poles, our magnetic poles are shifting.
So yeah, I don't think we're going to go cattywampus, but definitely we're going to there's going to be shifts and the planet's wobbling and it's moving exponentially.
Yeah. I mean, that's some of the reasons that we're having right now. These are current satellite photographs in their infrared.
And by the way, everybody in the chat room, Deborah Smith is now breaking dawn Smith. And I'll explain that on another show. I might hop back on a little bit later. I've got some other things I want to discuss, but I'll tell you guys why her name changed. It's pretty cool. So, oh yeah. You have that one, Scott, that's side by side showing how it's shifted to?
Oh yeah, the from the 2015.
Yeah.
Well,
that one's pretty, like you can see it for sure, the difference in a short period of time. I mean,
1 year. 1 year.
1 year. I mean, that's a lot of movement.
Okay, we have our photographs are up here, but what you're looking at here is you're looking at these were photographs taken from the International Space Station, recording the Earth for 1 full year, from August 2015 through July of 2016. 1 full year of the Earth rotating. I have the actual video. When we compared the video from 2015 to the video of 2016, if you take a look where the continent of Africa is, it's now,
it took a huge dip. Yep.
Yeah. And the huge dip that it took from 2015 to 2016, the whole entire continent, well, not the whole continent, but the Earth itself shifted 1,758 kilometers. That's why we're having all of the weird weather, which will continue throughout this lifetime of anybody that is living and breathing on this planet right now. You will never experience the weather that you remember.
No, and there's always a reason for it. I mean, definitely. I mean, just because, there's always slight changes every year, but there's been so many drastic changes. There had to have been, and bingo, Scott, there it is. That's the reason right there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, this is the problem. You can see right here. This is side by side, 2015, 2016. And they didn't realize when they released this video footage in two separate video files. So there was one video file for 2015, one video file for 2016, a year later. The position of the space station is the same. The Earth is now over 1,700 kilometers shifted towards the east. Now, our magnetic North Pole, our North Pole magnetically is no longer in the North Pole. It's on its way over to Siberia.
I'll say. Wow.
That's when we're talking about the differences in a magnetic pole shift. And I'll be quite frank with everybody, in the course of the last week, a magnetic pole shift scientific information and reports hit mainstream media worldwide, and it was making the front page of every newspaper in the civilized world because
say
see
that again,
coming.
Scott. Say that one more time. Say that. I mean, seriously, that's got to click here.
Yeah. In the course of the last 10 days, there has been scientific information that's coming out that scientists are now saying something, that our magnetic reversal is happening at a very rapid pace, faster than a few centimeters a year. It's now moving very fast. And we have shifted so far, the magnetic North Pole has shifted so far towards Siberia. That is also a major factor in changing our weather patterns and our jet stream. But why all of a sudden is that happening? Think back to the magnets again. The Earth is like a magnet also. If you have another magnetic force out there stronger than the Earth, it's going to start pulling on the Earth. What polarity, what pole will it pull on? It's going to pull on the North Pole. As it pulls on the North Pole, what happens? You start tilting the planet even more than our normal 23.5 degrees on our axis. So now, instead of the Earth being like this on our axis, it's like this. 2 or 3 degrees upsets the whole apple cart. And there is theory that at one point in time in Earth's history, you know, the planet completely 180 degrees. I don't think we're there. I don't think we'll see that in our lifetimes. But we're going to go through some hellacious times that are going to be unforgettable, and they're going to be from this point on. But we still need each and every day to continue to, you know, gather the information, monitor everything. There is so much to learn if you're just coming into this. And there will be points in time where it will shake you to the core. It will test your faith. But you have to realize there's nowhere to run. The only thing you could do is gain the knowledge, as I tell all the people that follow me. Knowledge is power. So once you get over the fear of what's happening, you center in on getting the knowledge of what's happening so you can better understand it. Because if you're going to leave this earth today or tomorrow, your children, your family, you know, they're going to go through it. So learning about it kind of keeps the fear at bay. Because don't think that just because you live in some quaint little town that doesn't experience earthquakes or volcanoes, don't think for a minute that nothing's ever going to happen in your neck of the woods or in your neighborhood, because one day you're going to wake up and things are going to be a lot different. The government is trying to cover this up. They've been trying to cover this up for over 35 years. They've killed scientists and astronomers around the world. The tally is up to 126.
That's
They even
crazy.
killed one of their own chief naval astronomer, Robert Harrington. And he was one of the men who discovered what was coming in all the way back in the early 80s. And he discovered it. And he gave a report to President Ronald Reagan. And then he mysteriously died of throat cancer, but never smoked a cigarette in his life and was in perfect health. And he was the chief naval astronomer. And they whacked him, plain and simple.
Gravity storm, Deborah, I don't know how to make some moderators on here. I'm
You
gonna
have to do that. Yeah, you have to
I'm
do
gonna have
that
to figure
too.
out how to do that. You know, and if there's any trolls in here, just hear me out for 1 minute. Don't you have something better to do? There's probably other channels that you might actually like, because to be honest with you, if you hate something so much, then you probably wouldn't be on a channel that you would love, because you actually enjoy hating. That's what you feed off of, is your hate. So why don't you just go find another channel to listen to? Because nobody here wants to hear your yin yang.
Yeah. Well, now you see what I
Keep
go
your
through.
yin yang somewhere else. And
Yeah, I mean, this
I'm
is
not
what I
even
go
gonna say it.
through. I go through these trolls, constantly. And these are put out by, the government. They're trolling, professional trolling operations. And this is what they do. They're meant to troll social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and get in there and start changing the minds of your followers, discredit me. Oh, this is a bunch of BS, blah, 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 blah.
It doesn't matter. I need to know how to set up this stuff, because I would have had his ass blocked. He could go on to another channel. Go find a channel that you enjoy, because it just shows your stupidity if you're going to stay. It really actually shows your ignorance, because Scott's sitting here explaining things out of the passion of his heart, with his sweat and tears and sleepless nights. And that's all that you can come up with, is a few little silly things. Well, your ling lang is pretty damn small. Sorry. Anyways, Scott, go ahead and finish your.
This was our newest discovery. This was actually on New Year's Day, 2018. And I discovered this during, monitoring. And you're looking at another coronagraph. This is the Stereo Ahead Core 2 spacecraft. It monitors the sun also at a different angle. And bingo, there you go.
Right. Yeah, you'd have to be absolutely blind not to see this stuff, Scott. And I just commend you for it, because if it wasn't for somebody like you, we wouldn't at least have the knowledge to be able to decide,
Yeah, you would never know what was happening. You wouldn't know any of this, because like I said, the government's been trying to hide this now for 35 years, or actually longer than that. They've killed their own. I mean, right now, there are 126 astronomers over the past 35 years that have been killed mysteriously, because they were investigating this and they were going to expose probably better evidence than I'm showing you now. They would have been showing you concrete evidence through the biggest telescopes on this planet that would be able to see in infrared. They would have been showing you high resolution photographs like they were coming from the damn Hubble telescope.
Right.
But, you know, like the old saying goes, dead men tell no tales.
So true. So we've been on almost an hour, but I want to go over a couple of things. Okay, everybody, I want you to listen up. That's on a more personal note. I just want you to know a little bit about the side of Scott that I don't know if he's mentioned too often, that I find extremely fascinating. He was also a paranormal investigator, and he used to do entity cleansings and everything, kind of like right up my alley. And there is one particular story, and Scott shared several with me, and I just, it'll blow you away. But Scott, could you just share that one story about that house?
Yeah,
Sure.
I've always had a fascination with paranormal studies. I mean, for me, it started when I was about 16 years old. It's a very, very long story, but I don't want to, get into all of it. But I started noticing something about myself back in that time when I was 16 that I don't want to make it sound like I'm a nut, but, my mom, we lived in a very old house, built back in 1890. I started hearing things. I'm starting to hear voices and, things of that nature. They're speaking in different languages and da 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 da. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Am I nuts? What's up? But as time went on and I got older, I started figuring out that holy shit, these are spirits that are talking. And I was always having recurring dreams about me in another lifetime, from the early 1920s into the 1930s. As I got older, it seemed like that all intensified. It got, it got intensified. And things became more clear. It was a little scary, but, whatever. And then I started learning more and more and more about the possible energy that I have. It's called, being an intuitive. Your intuition level is 100 times more than someone else. You're able to feel other people's emotions, pain. I don't want to say really thoughts, but if I'm very close to you or I touch you or shake hands with you, I'm able to feel your energy. And it gives me a picture. That's basically it. So as I delved into more and more paranormal studies, and I'm not talking about running around abandoned buildings looking for ghosts. I went into scientifically the paranormal study, and I had to learn what was happening to me. And it was a big help. I started my own paranormal group, but it wasn't to go running around in abandoned buildings. It was more meant geared towards helping people that were having issues with, spirits, attachments, things of that nature, because it does exist. And in 2015, I got a phone call. Actually, a message. I have a Facebook page dedicated to our paranormal group. I got a message and then a phone call from a couple that bought a house, a big, gigantic brick house. Matter of fact, I have it pulled up. I'll just show you. Pictures are worth 1,000 words.
That'd be awesome, Scott. We're getting some good comments. People are saying they love this stuff we're talking about now. They like the paranormal too, Scott.
Yeah, talk is cheap.
No, I know, but that's cool if you've got some photos too to back it up.
Yeah, here's the initial investigation from the beginning. And what you're looking at here, you're looking at the house. Now, I can't expand these photographs to zoom in because this is on my Facebook page. But this is the house. And if you can see right here, it was once a house storefront. It was an old coal mine general store, and it was located in a small rural area of southwestern Pennsylvania. I live in Pittsburgh. And back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, this was basically a coal mines through this area, and immigrants from Germany, Slovakia, Italy, Poland. These were the people that were basically in the coal mines. This particular house was built by a Slavic man, an older man, in the year 1900 exactly. In 1911, he came home from the mine, walked up this road from the mine, and his older son, his son's wife, and 3 children were all living here. And the man, I guess, lost his mind, possessed, whatever you want to call it, and he murdered his son, his son's wife, and the 3 children, and he buried them in the dirt basement under this house. And then he hung himself in the basement. Let me see which way I could go for the pictures. I was called in to investigate the property because in 1911 is when this murder occurred. They never found the bodies. They just found the old man hanging in the basement. So in 2015, a couple that lives in this area, they own a horse farm on the other side of the foothill of this house. They wanted to buy this property. This property has been vacant since 1911. They negotiated a price to the county for back taxes, and they bought it. When they went inside, it's very dilapidated, massive holes in the floor, very dangerous. And when they went in there, the husband and wife and their teenage kids, to look around for one of the first times, they encountered, some pretty bad things as far as a spiritual sense. And they left out of there immediately. And they got in touch with me. They wanted to know if my paranormal team would come down and do an investigation. And I don't really need a paranormal team because all I have to do is walk through the front door and the storyline starts to come to me. And I could feel the energy of what happened there. And we recorded some of it. We took photographs and everything. And I was immediately drawn to the upstairs area. Upstairs, there are 4 bedrooms. And remember, there were 3 children, ages 5, 7, and 9, living here with their parents and their grandfather. So we were in one of the bedrooms that I was drawn to. And when we were in the bedroom, I could sense the presence of a small little girl. And I just knelt down on one knee and I started talking out loud. It's okay, little girl. You can come out. I'm not going to harm you. Just come to me. And I just had my flashlight on my cell phone. And I said, come to the light, come to me. And then my photographer had a video camera. His name is Doc. He was videotaping this. And right in front of the camera, this little 5-year-old girl from that era, from 1911, appeared right next to me, like a little apparition. And you could hear her voice on the camera say, I'm here. And then she was gone. So I didn't sense her presence in that bedroom anymore. So we continued to move from bedroom to bedroom, and it was, again, very dangerous in here. This place has been vacant since 1911. There were animals in there, snake skins, a bat dew. I mean, this place was dangerous inside. The people that bought the house wanted to tear it down and expand their horse farm. But after they experienced what they did, they felt that, hey, we better check this place out, because there are also a lot of Indian burial grounds in this area, because the Indians inhabited this area of all of the eastern part of the United States. This was their land. So as we moved through this house, again, I was drawn to the basement. The basement is consisted of 6 rooms. It's all dirt floors. And as we went through there, I started sensing something really bad, like really, really, really bad. As we got down into the basement, I shined my light over to the wall, and we found this. These were the children's handprints. They drew the house, and this was done in plaster. Old plaster that they used to use to make the walls. That's how it survived so perfectly for all those years. And whenever I looked at this, more of the story started coming to me. And then I felt something that was just really, really horribly bad. And this is more parts of the basement area. And they drew all kinds of things in this plaster with their little hands. That's Doc right there. We were taking some pictures. That's me in the fluorescent orange. You could see how dilapidated things were. While we were standing there, there are little cubby holes in the bedrooms, little doorways that lead all the way through the house. As I turned my back, this was when the little girl disappeared. And if you see right here, you can see her energy orb right there. Because I was standing right there where my cursor is. After she disappeared from the camera, I turned around and started to walk away. And there's her energy right there. Doc didn't see her. Because see, he's looking the opposite way. He's looking up. Look, I look possessed, look. But you could see, again, right here, there's an energy source right here where my cursor is. And that's what basically spirits are. They're energy. This, still to this day, we haven't figured out what this is. And what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to download this. So we can take a look at it. I took this photograph because I felt something was there. I couldn't see it with my own eyes. It almost looks angelic. It almost looks like a bird, but it wasn't a bird. We had a light on in the room, a flashlight, and we were just taking photographs. And this appeared. I took that photograph myself. I've had numerous people examine it. It's not photoshopped or anything like that. It was there. What it is, still to this day, we don't have any idea, but you know, you can clearly see through it.
That's pretty amazing, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Here's another view of it. And you could see through this bottom part, you could see through to the window.
Right.
There's another picture of the house. Let me see something here. And I've done paranormal investigations all over.
And Scott, didn't you encounter a dark entity in there too then?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the picture of it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's either mixed up in some of the other ones. I've done so many investigations over the years, but this dark energy that I encountered in the basement, I actually have a picture of it. It was just on a whim, and I was trying to find it because I could feel it down in the basement. Where the hell is it? Oh, here it is. I'm going to download this also so I can show you. It's not the perfect definition. Now, I don't know what this whiter object is right here, but the dark entity that you see right here, that was the non-human entity that was in the basement of this house. And I chased this thing, I chased this entity from room to room in the basement, and I was taunting it verbally. And we had our EMF readers out, and the EMF spikes were off the chart, but it was moving away from me. And as it would move from room to room, the EMF readings would drop. It didn't want any parts of me because I knew that that non-human entity, which is a very, very negative spirit, but it's not a human spirit. These non-human entities are like watchdogs.
Predator.
Exactly. These are the spirit energies that have the ability to create high anxiety, jealousy, envy, violence. These are the ones that work on your mind, and these are the things that cause people to just go and kill their whole damn family.
True.
And this is what happened, and that entity was still in that house since 1911, and we found it, and I chased it from room to room. And then finally, after an hour, it got away from me. It either went up to another level of the house, it wasn't there anymore. And then as I was backing up, I stepped on, well, it was all dirt floor. And then I stepped onto what seemed to be like a concrete pad of some kind. And it was about 6 foot by 6 foot. And it was over in the corner, right where this blob of crap was. And if I pan, well, I can't pan back, but you can see the concrete pad. The picture is very pixelated because it was dark and the quality of the camera, but it was right there in the corner was this 6 by 6 concrete pad in the dirt. I immediately was drawn to that concrete pad in the dirt. And I said to myself, my God, this is where the family is. Nobody ever found the son, the wife, and the 3 kids. They speculated that they went back to Slovakia. Remember, this was in 1911. They found the old man hanging. I found his obituary and the report in the newspaper from 1911. I traced the family tree back to Slovakia. The owners of the house were standing there with us, and the guy was a horse farmer and also a contractor. I asked him, I said, "Hey, listen, do you have a sledgehammer? We need to break this concrete pad." At first, I thought it was a well of some kind in the basement. But back in 1911, they didn't have wells in these houses, because where this house was, there was no water source. It was not a well. So the guy went to his truck. He came back, and he came back swinging like something took him over, and he smashed that concrete pad, and he threw the sledgehammer to the side, and he started to dig through this real dark black dirt. And he was digging like a dog, with both of his hands and shoveling dirt out. And the next thing you know, he threw something right past me, like the dirt was flying. And I saw the object hit the floor. And lo and behold, it was a small human rib. And it happened to be one of the ribs of the children. So we all threw ourselves down on our knees and we started digging. And lo and behold, we found the skeletal remains of the husband, the wife, and the 3 children, all stacked on top of each other and buried in this little shallow grave. And he poured concrete over it to seal them in there. As we extracted the skeletal remains, I picked up one of the small little ribs that was from the little girl that I encountered upstairs. And I immediately got all of her energy and the picture of what happened. And the grandfather came home, obviously overwhelmed by this entity that had been working on him for quite some time. And that day when he came home from the coal mine, he murdered his son's wife, and he strangled those 3 children, and he threw them in that little pit, and he buried them, and he sealed it up with concrete. Then he hung himself. No explanation, but I can feel everything coming through when I was holding the little rib of that little girl. The reason why the little girl's spirit is still in the house and not everybody else's is because whenever he was strangling these children, he thought that the little 5-year-old girl was already dead when he threw her in the hole, but she wasn't. She was only unconscious. And he buried her on top of her mother, her father, her older brother and sister. He buried her alive. So her spirit was left in that house, up in that bedroom, and that little bedroom was her bedroom. That's why she stays up there. So since 1911, her poor little spirit has been stuck right there in that bedroom. Nobody ever came to get her. This was pretty overwhelming for me. We ended up calling the state police and the coroner to, come report this. They did come and they said, "Well, what do you want us to do about it? It's on private property. It's from 1911. No crime has been committed. Nothing we could do." And they left. And I was like, wow, So I wanted to try to do the right thing to gather some peace for the remains. And at the end of the road, on the corner of this country road where this house is, there was a small, real small, little teeny tiny little cemetery, like in a yard. It had a wrought iron fence around it and a big gigantic oak tree in the middle. And there was a mobile home on the property. And something, again, drew me to that little cemetery right there. I went into the property. I looked at the tombstones, and they were dating back to the late 1800s, early 1900s. And, excuse me, the little teeny village that was there was called Germantown. Reason being, everybody was from Germany. They were coal miners. So I knocked on the door. An elderly lady answered. I introduced myself, told her who I was. And out of nowhere, the lady said, "Oh, you're the one that found the remains in that house." "Yeah, that was my great-grandfather's house." Wow. She was a relative living right next door to the original brick house. Down the road a little bit, but you know, the houses are pretty far spread out. She said, "You want to bury those remains in my cemetery. That cemetery has been here for a long time." I didn't even ask her. And that's exactly what we did. A friend of mine, you know, good at carpentry, he didn't make a coffin, but he built a sizable wooden box. And later the next day, we gathered the remains, we put them in the box, and took them down the road to that cemetery, dug a shallow grave near that big oak tree, and we put them to rest. That's the best that we could do. And the very next day, after we put them to rest, in my own home, that was now in my house on my sun porch for 3 days, taunting me and trying to do what it did to the elderly Slavic man. But I'm a little too powerful for that thing. And through the help of a friend of mine, I was able to get rid of it. We did a salt ritual. It worked. And this was the last investigation that I was on. And this was in October of 2015. This investigation rocked me to the core. And I've been on, oh my, I don't even know how many investigations that I've done. These pictures are too small, but I've been to many very old cemeteries around in the area, very old churches that go back to, mid 1700s, 1800s. This was a friend of mine who moved into an older house, and her cats were sitting on the floor staring up at this flat screen TV, and it's off. And she took this picture and sent it to me. And I can't zoom into it, but she kept hearing every night, like a little kid running around on the hardwood floors. If you look very closely, who do you see in the reflection of the flat screen TV? A little boy. He's right there. You see his hair? He's looking right at her. And that's what her cats were staring at.
Powerful, powerful story, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's, like I said, there's so much. There's so much. It's a little too hard to share all in
right
one night.
Right. And folks, Scott has some pretty powerful gifts intuition and a really, really good logical mind to get all the data to, you know, keep it to where he's intuitive, but getting all of the data necessary. And I love that because that's how I am. And because he has these amazing gifts that, you know, I think everybody has to a certain degree. Some people can develop them more than others. And Scott and I were talking earlier, and we both just had them since we were young. We really didn't develop them. They were just there, but everybody can develop them. But because of this, there are watchers that seem to want to watch us. There are good beings and there are negative beings. And the same with the aliens. And so that being said, when Scott told me what happened and what he pulled out of his body and showed it to me, I have no doubt in my mind, folks, that that was an alien implant. And, you know, these type of aliens want to track people, or they want to inflict pain or things to stop people from being able to operate like this. And with all the things he's exposing with Planet X, chemtrails, all of the things that are going on in the world, and his gifts to get rid of entities and to help people, it is no wonder that this has happened to him. So I don't want to spend a lot more time because we can always have you back on, Scott, but if you could show them where this was lodged in your navel cavity first, and then maybe show them the object that you pulled out and how you happened to find it.
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up here real quick. Yeah, I had been having some like sinus issues and some headache issues for some time. And let me see where the file is. Oh, it's in the screenshots, maybe. Or is it in my thumbnail one here? Oh yeah, it is.
And I appreciate all of you in the chat room. I've been reading your responses.
Yeah, I mean this has been happening for a little bit of time, and this is just recently, the last 2 months. I started having this pain in the left side of my upper nose, very, very close where the bone is, and underneath my eye. And I was always feeling this pressure right behind my cheekbone. It's giving me headaches. I spend, you know, a long period of time working at my computer with what we do. And, you know, it was really starting to bother me, starting to get the headaches. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not sleeping and having these weird freaking dreams. And I'm not a dreamer. I don't dream. I sleep 3-4 hours. I wake up and my brain is on fire. It's instantaneous. You know, I'm not the kind of person that wakes up and I'm like, I'm wide awake. I'm ready to go. And, you know, not to sound gross, but I started pushing on the outside of my nose, right where the bone starts. And every time I pressed on it right there, I felt a really bad pinch, but the pinch wasn't in my nose. I could feel it in my eye. And I was like, oh, what the hell? Once I felt that, well, there went the finger. The finger had to go up there. And I'm like, I can feel it. I can feel the tip of it. Oh, shit, it's hard. And then just by luck, all the way back, I must have got my pinky nail just on it enough. And I pulled, and all of a sudden, I can feel the intense pain and pressure right underneath my eye, right underneath this area, my sinus cavity. I can feel the pressure come right out. And then I saw that, and I put it on a napkin, a piece of tissue paper immediately. It is so small. We sized it up to smaller than a grain of rice. Okay. As you look at this, and this was magnified in high definition, Yeah, you could take over from here, Jen.
Well, okay, so it wasn't as hard as a bone, but it was definitely like a cartilage type feeling. It almost looked like it was a crystal of some sort. I can't tell whether you've magnified it yet or not. I see it on the screen, but it is the shape of every type of alien implant that they have been able to find. It is similar in color. And, if you look at it, and I told Scott he might take it to a lab to find out what it's made of. But it is not bone, but it is solid. And where it was located near the nerve and everything, and near this blood vessel, it literally would be messing with his eyesight and possibly even go up to interact with the brain. You don't find stuff like that. I have watched a surgery done for nose polyps. This is not even a nose polyp. I've seen it with my ex. He had 5 of them removed. So this is not a nose polyp. I believe it's an implant. I'm not going to say the exact age Scott is, but at his age, if this would have been there, he would have noticed this a long time ago. So it was implanted in him. And I believe everything that he's working on, everything that he's doing, not only does parts of the government and deep state not like him, but, part of the, negative alien race that, doesn't like him is probably trying to affect him. And I really believe that is what this is. There's just no way. And he also mentioned that he didn't dig out another one in the back of his neck, but there was some very suspicious, like, what did you say, Scott? Like a pockmark or something?
I mean, what it reminded me of, it was right at the base of my hairline in the back, directly, and I mean directly in the middle. And it had been bothering me right on the back of my neck. And as I can feel back there, I can feel it raised out of the skin a little bit. And I tried picking it for like 2 weeks. And I just couldn't get to it. And I mean, it's hard for me because I'm trying to do it by myself. I didn't want to let anybody in on it. And then finally one day, I felt like I got a hold of it and I pulled on it. And again, it was pretty painful, but it didn't end up in my fingers. And then I had Dr. Albers take a photograph of it, a high definition, close up, zoomed in, perfect photograph of it, the back of my neck. And all there was a perfectly round puncture mark.
Like a scoop mark. Beat 3 Airspace said scoop mark. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's I have no doubt.
Something else I didn't tell you and I forgot. Well, Dr. Albers took those photographs and then I asked her to email them to me the next day. They were erased from her cell phone. She didn't do it. They were erased from her cell phone. The pictures on her cell phone automatically get uploaded and saved to Google Pictures, just like mine do on my cell phone. They weren't even there on Google Pictures.
Right.
And the next day, that hole closed up to nothing. There's no scar. There's no nothing there. Nothing.
Well, when there have been in the past, I think there was one doctor who was removing these, the way they were put into the skin, there really was no blood. I mean, it was pretty precise, like a surgeon stuck it in to somebody. And just like acupuncture with the needles, it can be smaller than a grain of rice and affect your whole system, affect different meridians in your body. And we're not going to go into this on this show, Scott, but he did have an encounter with seeing an alien spacecraft, and so did his dad. There's another kind of bit of evidence and clues to the fact of, he's probably been watched by more than just the government. So folks, I appreciate you listening to this show. Scott, I so appreciate you sharing all of this information, including some very personal stories that have happened in your life.
Oh, there's much more, my dear. There's much more.
We've been 2 hours now is what my streaming says. We are going to have you back on. I hope everybody enjoyed what we talked about tonight. You're not going to get this on any regular news channel and not even on Oprah or Jerry Springer, but you will get this on Crypto Truth Seekers. So before you folks leave, hit the like button, like and share, and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And I hope that you enjoyed this. And even though there were some trolls, they still
you're always going to have them.
Well, they're still getting information. And so one day, maybe they'll see that some of the things that you're saying are definitely true. And so we'll just leave it at that. But thank you, folks. Scott, hold on just a minute. I'm going to end the meeting, and then I can talk with you for just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, folks. Have a great evening. I'll be on again. I've got some more stuff I need to talk about, lots of other things too. So either later or tomorrow, I'll come on. Thank you. It always takes me a second to click out all these. Hold on, end.